Hey, what is up everybody, Blaze here, and today for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be going ahead and doing a summon guide for this game, at least seeing that the global announcement of this game has recently been told, or at least teased on us. So if you guys are interested in this, be sure to of course sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And as always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really does help me out a lot, which y'all have been doing amazing. After seeing all the teasers and everything coming out for JP and Global, we're all excited. So what better video to do than this one, and then go into the actual guides for the game itself. So first things first, how we're going to break up this video is going to at least go over the summon, or at least the summon section here, describing the banners, the pities, and things like that, as well as some of the rates. And then we're going to go ahead and deep dive into how to get some gems just a little bit here. And roughly, we're going to do the meat and potatoes of the video, which is going to go from if we start in version 1.0 all the way up to current, what units are worth. So of course, you guys be able to have these timestamps down below, and I'll be sure to make sure to provide those so you guys can skip through if you really do want to. But all right, now if we went over this, let's go ahead and click the summons icon. Now the summons icon here is going to be available to you once you get through with some of the actual what's called the tutorial, and it'll bring you to, of course, modern day Shibuya. This is going to be the icon right here, in which you'll be able to see anyone you want to go ahead and summon for, or at least the characters that you'll be able to summon for. And if Global does have at least, of course, you guys summoning in 1.0, it should be Joker, and hopefully they bring over the two features here, which is the best features in the entire game, being the 50-50 banner and then the actual guaranteed banner. Now we'll get more into this, but pretty much all the banners are going to be spread out. What you're going to end up seeing is going to be the main limited banner, which is going to technically be this Joker icon, or I guess you guys can see Makoto here for now. And then there's going to be no other ones here except for two standard banners. One of them will look like this but have on it, and then the other one will be a 30 pity banner. Both of those are going to be your standards, of course. I highly suggest you guys to do the 30 pity banner first, because at the end of that 30 pity, it actually does give you a 5-star, which should be either Skull, On, or Morgana. Now this is all going off of if you guys are starting in version 1.0. That 30 pity banner never changes. As for at least this banner, which is the actual standard summon banner, if they didn't start you guys in 1.0, you'll have a ton of other standard units to summon for. But if they did, of course, you will only be able to summon for pretty much the 5 stars, being Mona, On, and Ryuji. Now, to be honest, when the game first started, especially at that point in time, Morgana, On, Ryuji, oh, I keep forgetting the other two, of course, Riddle and Rin, were all good 5-star characters. If it was up to me, I would try to not summon for these characters as much as possible. Like, do the 30 pity to get that guaranteed character, but the rest of that, I would try to at least reroll for an account for to really do that and actually have yourself set. Reasoning being is because these summons are going to slowly get at least expanded out, especially if you're going from 1.0 up to current. As the game does go on, they add in standard characters. After the standard characters come out as kind of like a limited banner, the next update, they immediately go to this standard banner here and get added to the 5-star roster. So it'd be wise to at least get a ton of these future fate cards ready for that time period to at least invest into characters that you really want. Some very good ones are probably going to be at least Phoebe, who a lot of you guys have seen on my account quite often here. This would probably be the best 5-star Navi when she drops here, of course, until Futaba and them come out. You'll see Phoebe, who is a standard character. Another standard character that is pretty darn good at the beginning is going to be like On, but she's already in there. When of course we get Marian into the standard 5-star pool, she's also an amazing 5-star, and so on and so forth. So it's probably wise for you guys to try to at least save some of those at the beginning to really invest into that standard banner. But Blade, what about the weapon banner here? Well, after you do a certain sub quest, or at least a side quest here, you'll have the weapon banner unlocked, in which it will look something like this, which will always have the limited characters banner, or at least limited characters weapon in the middle, and then you can choose 2 other 5 stars to go on the side just in case you lose your 50-50, and it will go to one of these 5-star weapons. It's pretty nice. Of course, if you end up losing your pity, the next one that you do is going to be actually 100% to give you the limited weapon, and the same goes for this 50-50 banner. You end up losing the banner, of course, it then turns into a 100%. So whenever you get to this partner, or at least the part where you get another 5-star, you'll be able to get that limited character. Now that we went over the base banners here and how those work, let's go a little bit deep diving into the limited banners themselves. As I did say, there's a 50-50 side of this banner which has an 80 pity and higher rates, and then there is a 110 banner which is the guaranteed banner which has lower rates and a higher pity. Now to some of you guys this might not sound like the best things here, but let me just go ahead and enlighten. It's actually not that bad. This of course is a guaranteed banner. It does have lower rates but a higher pity, but the thing about this one is at that 110 you are definitely getting this limited character. There is no 50-50, there's nothing like that. You are getting the actual character that you want. So if you wanted to take this into account and at least see if it was worth it, let's say you hit pity, which is 80 on this game here, right? Well, and you didn't get the character. You lost your 50-50 and then it takes you another, let's say 70 or 80 to get the character finally. That's about 160 or 150 pulls that you ended up doing. Heck, you can even get it at 50 or even 40 pity. You're still going to be wasting a little bit more, being 130 or 120 pull. When instead of doing that, you could very well, as a free to play, go ahead and go up to 110 and still make yourself have that character earlier than if you had to go all the way to 80 and then up to at least 40 pity on your second rotation. So you guys see what I'm saying here? It's a little bit cheaper if you just really believe your luck is not that good. So with this in mind, what is up with the 165 here? What does this mean? Well, for some of those people who of course want to go for a dupe, you of course can get to the 110, right? Well, this here will be 110 if you get to that point. Once you hit 165, you actually get a random 5-star character, and they do add these standard units here that will be added in the game here as well as they do come out. They're added into this point. Now it is not a picker, it is a randomizer, so you do have to hope that you do get the standard character that you want. But let's say you were already planning to do this banner twice. Well, that's 220 plus an extra character at 165. So technically you come out of this banner guaranteed with 3 5-stars. So it's not really that bad. Though if you are actually doing some heavy duping out of characters, you might want to go ahead and just stick with the 50-50, seeing it does have a higher pity pool. So after we went over that, of course, we went over the rates and we went over these type of banners. That's all we really need to go over, because of course that's usually what's all going to be there, unless they start you guys in 4.0 or anything like that, or start you guys at a different version. Then you might see this little paper here, which is like a select banner, and you can choose 3 characters in order to pull on them. It still has the guaranteed and it still has the 50-50. But now we went over the banners, let's go ahead and go over how to acquire these said summons. Now, the summons can be acquired in various different ways, whether it's events, whether it's going for story, mementos. There's always gems and currency that you end up using. These said currencies, of course, can be exchanged throughout just by randomly exchanging just gems in general by doing this for 150 per pool, which really isn't that much as well, coming out for each multi to be 1,500. And then of course, if you just didn't want to do that, you can just get the cards themselves if you just find them in different events. Now, events are very often on this game. In fact, they're actually increasing a lot of the rewards, including some events in which as you play the game and you slowly go through different things, you'll be able to get more and more gems and more cards to summon for said things. So surely do keep that in mind. And one other thing that we're going to talk about the banners before we get more into the characters here and what I would recommend you guys summoning on, I would highly say when it does come down to the weapons, these are not like 1,500 as well. These are actually only 1,000 gems to do a 10 pull, so it's actually way cheaper than it actually is for the character pull. So for you guys who really wanted to know that as well, 1,500 for the character, but 1,000 for the actual weapon. And for my whales or duping out people out there as well, you dupe out characters as normal. You need multiple copies, of course, but for the weapons, it works a little different. You only need 3 copies of the 5-star weapon, besides of course the first copy. So technically 4 copies of the 5-star weapon. And the reason for this is because as you go up a weapon here, and I can actually kind of show you guys exactly how this works. As you go up a weapon and at least start to dupe said things here, you would end up actually using only 3 of them. So if we go ahead and take this weapon, for example, we can go ahead and check it out. You press reform, you would first throw in this one weapon. Well, the next time that you throw in the next weapon here, it actually allows you to utilize any other weapon of that same rarity to at least dupe out that second part as pretty much just a consumable weapon. Then on the third one, you're able to utilize that same weapon, or at least your original weapon, once again to dupe it out again, and so on and so forth. So you really only need 3 off weapons and 3 actual weapons for that character, and you can actually get out the character weapon duped out pretty quickly. So truly do keep that in mind, especially if you are considering on duping out characters and their weapons. But now we went over that news here, what characters should you guys be summoning on, or what I believe you guys should be summoning on. Now, we don't know exactly when you guys will be starting on global. We don't know exactly what version you guys are going to be doing global as well. So things are going to be a little iffy for you all. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but what I can tell you is there's going to be a different amount of characters that I can very well recommend you guys. So go ahead and take a look at the character roster. So if we go ahead and go to, if I remember correctly, here, and then let's go to our Phantom Thieves here. There's going to be a bunch of characters that you guys are going to want to summon on. But in 1.0, if they do start you there, Joker is going to be the first guy to go to. Now, he's not going to have this little snazzy outfit that you see here, of course. This comes out later on. But our man Joker is actually going to be coming to the game as the first banner, especially if you guys are starting in 1.0, unless they utterly worldly put you guys banner around. But with this in mind, should you go ahead and just summon for the character? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Well, in this standpoint of things, I would say just try to re-roll for the guy, especially if you're going for him. Try to re-roll for him, just summon for his weapon, and that's it. Mainly because he is the first featured unit, he actually will be very helpful at the beginning, and even now, seeing that he has tons of buffs at this point in time, he will be absolutely amazing to just utilize overall. He's not really a bad character. He is the only AoE first DPS that we do have. We are getting a single target 5-star first character later on, but he still has his place, seeing he is an AoE DPS himself. For this character, just try to reroll on, but I wouldn't at least advise you guys to heavy summon on. Then of course we have the next character, which is going to be Yui. Now Yui herself is a awesome character. She has an amazing personality, but unfortunately this is the one character I would highly advise a lot of you guys to try and skip on. During her time, at least at the beginning of 1.1, Yui was really good, of course, at that point in time. As you can see, it came out on she came out on May 2nd and was a really interesting character to say the least. We finally got our first trailer that really hyped up a lot of people and really made us look forward to the next version. But after that said version, she kind of just fizzled out. Due to her glass cannon abilities, she really wasn't the best unit to keep around here. You only used her for some small things in guild boss, so I would highly advise you guys to go ahead and skip. Afterwards, of course, we ended up having another banner, which is inside of 1.3, and this was Marian. Now, Marian was one of the few standard characters, and I'm gonna just straight up be honest with you. Any standard characters that are summonable when they first come out, do not summon for them. They will be added to the standard banner the second you leave, so surely just keep that in mind. Now, maybe later down the line, of course, when we get like Howler, we get Turbo, you might want to summon on those banners. I still wouldn't advise it, but you might want to summon on those banners because at that point in time, we should have around like 10 standard characters in the standard pool, so it really will be interesting. But I would say for her first time in 1.2, definitely try to skip the unit. Now, coming down to my main man Yusuke here, another Phantom Thief, of course, out of the original crew. In 1.3.1, this is where this character really actually introduced himself on May 30th, and he was a really good unit. Now, he brought at least the aspect of having a defense DPS character, which was shocking to a lot of us in at least the whole aspect of P5X itself. We're normally used to just seeing very offensive characters, but this character had a counterattack that quite literally was an AoE counterattack, also had a single target counterattack follow-up, and could deal some pretty devastational damage. At the point in time, he makes things really easy, and even to this day, if you actually had a defense team and wanted to just coast through a lot of the content, you very well could build a defense related team and just continue going. But with this character, when it comes down to content, he isn't the best to do a lot of things for. So unless you just really like this character, I would highly suggest kind of skip this one as well. So let's be honest here, a lot of us are just going to be playing anyways to actually just give characters love. So even though I'm saying skip these said characters, If it is a character you really do enjoy or a character you really do love, I highly suggest you go ahead and summon on them. At the end of the day, we are playing this to have fun. Don't try to make this anything that you just feel like I gotta have these characters. Just enjoy yourself as well. But going into 1.2 or at least 1.3.2, we then had a double banner, which was Riddle and Rin. Now Riddle and Rin were both standard characters, and they both are still standard characters that were in here at the beginning of the game. Both of these characters are awesome, but I would highly suggest to go ahead and skip this due to the next banner that we had right up, which was the girl herself in 1.3.3, Makoto. Now Makoto was the first banner I would say is a must summon banner, and even to this day I think, even though we know what comes up afterwards and we know different things that are coming afterwards, I would highly suggest you guys to go ahead and summon this character. This is going to be the first time that a character will be reigning supreme in SOS. If everything is going exactly the same how it did on TWKR and you guys are starting in this would be a character that you want to summon. She's a heavy hitting character, though she doesn't have too much on the at least survivability side of things. Nuke team is actually very strong. She actually delivers a new mechanic as well with her at least mass changing mechanic as well, which allows her to deal 2 times more nuke damage than ever before. This was the first time a lot of us, at least on P5X, started seeing some crazy numbers, besides of course either Yuji maximizing teams or Yui maximizing A6 teams. This was the first character that we genuinely just saw at A0, A1, all the way up to A6 was just an insane unit to boot. She also ruled for quite a long time, so actually having her wouldn't be a bad idea. So if you wanted to summon during 1.3.3, I would say go ahead and summon. She's not a full-on must summon, but she definitely is one that you consider summoning for. That's really good. Then of course we had the 1.4 update. This was pretty much right before we had like any huge updates besides like Chord or it had any summer units here at that time. And I would say that is going to be Phoebe. Now Phoebe was once again a standard character. She still is an amazing Navi to this day and is part of the meta to this day as well. Although we do have characters like Ange, Futaba, she is still part of the big 3 of the actual navigators that are still amazing in this game. So I would highly advise you guys to, of course, just look at her just a little bit with deciding on if you pull for her. But once again, she is a standard unit. This unit herself is not a must need, you know, she's not a must pull. If anything, for a lot of you guys, you can very well skip her, seeing she is that said standard unit. Just do keep in mind though, as navigator wise for mono teams and things of that nature, she will be reigning supreme for quite a while, at least until Futaba does come. So I do suggest you guys, if you have the extra currency laying around and you're already prepared for next version, which was where things change drastically, then you can go ahead and summon on it. But I would suggest you guys skip. Then we had the faded version. Now this version was the most insane change to P5X here, and that was the introduction to Chord. Now with this in mind, we finally started getting reruns for characters, so it was Chord and Joker who ended up appearing at the exact same time. So for those of you who missed out on Joker, you finally could go ahead and get him again. And then of course, for some of us who ended up seeing this character, we liked their design, but we were kind of on the fence. Some of us ended up going crazy on going for this character. Some of us only got one, and then a lot of people ended up skipping. This was the worst decision for a lot of people in that point in time. A lot of us went all in on Makoto, and then some of us even went in on Phoebe. So having a character like Chord, we really didn't think it would be too necessary to have, or at least that is what we thought at first. Chord was where everything in P5X really did shift, and that was because she built up highlight gauge and allowed you to really just spam as much as possible. So with this in mind, especially with the dupes that she ended up bringing, SOS changed drastically. You didn't have Chord, you pretty much weren't going to be ranking anything in Guild Boss, and you weren't going to be ranking pretty high in SOS. This was just a common knowledge thing, and really a lot of people got a rude awakening on the next update where she disappeared. Quite literally, once she disappeared, the amount of people who did not have her really understood what they missed out on, and it was a bad decision to say the least. This is one character that is a must summon, and I would just suggest anyone here Chord supremacy is high. Okay, first of all, she's an amazing character. She looks awesome, but man, this is one character you do not want to miss. So be sure to go ahead and go for her. Now, the next character that we're going to be going ahead and looking at is going to be 2.1.1. Now, 2.1.1 brought in at least our summer update here, which brought in a few characters. Now, once again, we still had Joker rerunning at this point in time for at least 3 whole updates, but then Summer Motoha or Summer Arai ended up coming out as well. This character is amazing, and it's a character that's really not bad at all. Even to this day, she does have her spots in different parts of the meta, though at the same time, she's kind of fizzled out to some degree. Unless you have this character duped out, and even then, she doesn't really find her place all the time, there's no real reason to summon for this character. Now, this is going to be something that I wouldn't per se say skip, but you could very well pull for it, but I would just say stay medium on this one. If you like her, go ahead and pull for her. If you don't like her, then I would suggest you guys go ahead and not pull for her. And if you're in the middle, I kind of would just say skip, because she's not really too much of a necessary need. It's only more of a want if you really want to get this character. So looking at 2.1.1, that's all we had to go over with her. Now 2.1.2 brought in Summer Moko. Now at this point in time, 2.1.2 had Summer Moko being very mid, right? A lot of us were like, this character is just not worth it. She is not good at all. And that was mainly just because she only was bound to an EHR team, and she didn't heal too much. She was a follow-up healer, and her heals did dirt jack nothing. Even if you had the 5-star weapon, it wasn't worth it. But she did have some room to grow, where based on at least the beta kit of Haru, we expected her to be the best in slot for Haru. You guys didn't really want to main Haru at that point in time. There was no real need to summon for this character, but once Haru did drop, her main team was actually very deadly, and now to this day, now that they've all been buffed drastically, was very deadly and is still very deadly. So if you guys really wanted to summon for Summer Moko and it did go by this actual banner timing, you very well can. I would say she's a really good summon, though if you're not going for Haru, then I mean you can skip this character as well. Now going into the next banner here, we have the 2.1.3 update. This was more of a rerun type update here, where we had both Marian and Yui both rerun here. That's a straight up skip. You don't need it either way. Marian's on standard at this point, and Yui just was not needed, so there was no point in having it. Then we have the 2.2 update, which was Messa. Now Messa took the whole game by storm, being one of the first male characters to come out here, or at least one of the first good looking male characters to come out here. And the girl side of this actual phantom base, or at least fan base in general, who really was looking for at least a male character to be added to the game, it was wild. Twitter blew up, the game blew up, we had a massive influx of players, and this was the first unit that quite literally just straight up put the game on the map. I would like to say, without a doubt, Messa made himself very interesting, seeing he has 2 different playstyles based on his mask, at least his mask mode, which can both go as pretty much like, I forgot what his first mode was called, but then his executioner mode was the second mode. Both of these modes were drastically different plays, and depending on his dupes, he also drastically played different. If you had at least A3 and up, you can play him more of a physical DPS all the way with some DOT on the side. And then if you had him A0 or at least A2 and down, you would play him more like a DOT DPS. Seeing that his bleeds actually acted as almighty, this is where a lot of his things came in, and he was really powerful for a couple SOS updates. And he only really shows himself now if you just have high tier dupes on him, usually being A6, though if you don't have that, of course, you don't really use his character. So all in all, if you plan on max duping this guy, then of course do a must pull. But if you don't plan on duping him out, you can maybe just skip this dude. He's not really too necessary. I know I'm going to be skipping him on my release runs of this, so truly do keep that in mind. Now we have the big boy update. Now the big boy update was the fated day that we finally got another Navi, and that was Futaba. With this update, of course, we had a cross fate update, which was absolutely amazing. In 2.3.1, Futaba made her debut. At this point in time, a lot of you guys probably just started playing because, of course, this was a big one for a lot of people, and she is our first character to have any type of weakness implant. Not to mention, she really helped out with the crit rate side of things. Went for A1, And I would have to say, if you guys wanted to go by this same banner pool, please just roadmap, this will be the character to go for. Alongside of this, Yui was still rerunning, but I wouldn't really go for her at all. Futaba was definitely a must pull, so I suggest you guys go for her. Then after her, we had 2.3.2, which was a new standard called Cherish. He was pretty much going to be the best in slot for Yusuke, and at the same time, we had a Yusuke rerun. I would just say for both of you guys, once again, he's a standard character, so he's definitely a skip. In Yusuke, he's just a 5-star, I want to say AoE DPS, but with the lack of amount of defense AoE DPS content, there really isn't a point to pulling for them. So this whole patch is definitely a skip patch. And the next patch is where a lot of people were very, very happy because their beloved girl has finally gotten into the game, and that was Haru. 2.3.3 was another big moment for P5X here, seeing a lot of people were actually way more excited for Haru than I really thought. She had an interesting kit, and it seemed kind of complex that actually involved her gun a decent bit of mounts here. Kinda had several different ways to play her, and once you did things correctly, man, she could deal some decent damage. Though this only lasted for at least a patch or two, and she slowly fizzled out. But if we end up starting the game with her actual balances and things at the very beginning, and everything does follow this roadmap, I would highly suggest you guys to at least summon for her. Get her weapon for sure, because she does need that, and it will make a drastic difference. If the game does start with her as well, with her weapon and everything like that, and her balances, she definitely will be a must pull character. Though if she doesn't start with her balances, which I feel like would be kind of weird, then you do have at least a reason to skip this character, though she is our only side unit, so still to be a little bit of a must pull. So I would suggest you guys go for her. Now, we then have 2.3.4. Now, this was going to be the standard Selector banner, in which you can pick any standard character while Yusuke was rerunning. I would suggest you guys just not to pull on either one, so surely do keep in mind. Afterwards, we started to get a very, very interesting look into trailers, which was in the 3.0.1 state, where we got a super rerun, which allowed you to go for other limited characters here, and this was lasting for 3 whole versions. But alongside of this here in 3.0.1, Mont Figure Skater came out and is absolutely running the meta for at least the next freaking couple updates. I won't even lie to you. SOS was involved with her heavily for at least 3 minimum updates, which is insane for actual having SOS there. This character would not leave the actual update, or at least not leave the meta for a while, and even today, he recently just came back with a more at least advanced team as well. This is one character that I would advise you guys to go ahead and summon for. Don't skip her. She is our first dual element unit. I would highly suggest you guys to utilize this character, seeing that she is very, very strong. Then of course you do have the super rerun, so if you wanted to go for a specific limited, be sure to go ahead and do that as well. Then in 3.0.2, we had the release of Howler. Howler is also another amazing debuffer here, who brought in both a AoE debuff and a single target debuff. Though morally, we were just using her for the AoE side of things, unless the boss was just alone. With this in mind, of course, Howler herself was absolutely amazing, but once again, she is a standard unit, so I would highly suggest you guys to skip. Then we had, of course, 3.1, which brought in the girl herself, aka the P5R collaboration, being Kasumi. Now, Kasumi here was absolutely amazing, and she still is one of the top DPS to today. At A0 or even A1, she could easily hit the 2 mil, 1 mil the type quota for damage, seeing she is a single target character with some crazy gimmicks. Her highlight was a little bit different than other highlights, seeing that she had something called a masquerade mode, which essentially just allowed her to not only crit on her highlights, but also deal some devastational damage here. This character, without a doubt, I say is definitely a must pull if you guys are wanting to go for her. She still is used in Guild Boss and SOS today, especially if you have her out. So I would definitely suggest you guys go for her if you can, but she can be skipped as well if you want. Because the next update, being 3.2.1, which was also a story update as well, is the most important one. When Bass, being the next 5-star here, ended up releasing with a rerun of Messa, and I have to say, this character is absolutely insane. Without a doubt, she lasted for quite some time here and actually ended up getting another Rerun and 3.2.2 with at least a standard selector and a Messa Rerun as well. With this in mind, she's still one of the higher freaking tiered, I want to say, buffers in the game. I still use it to this day, and if you have her A1, she can practically go into any team necessary as long as you do need crit damage. So this is definitely a supporter that you don't really want to miss out. If you're not using, of course, Chord, you definitely will be using her. So definitely want to pull for this character. Next, we had our Chinese New Year update, which was Rin Lion Dance. Now, Rin ended up releasing at the beginning of this year, being January 23rd, 2025 here. In 3.3, this was a crazy one. A lot of people were going to end up skipping the next few because we knew, of course, Akechi was right around the corner, and we already knew the date that he was actually going to be releasing. But boy, oh boy, a lot of people regretted skipping this character to some degree here. This is the most powerful AoE unit pretty much that's out in the game here, and Rin Lion Dance definitely brought a new mechanic. She not only brought in just technicals, but the amount of fire damage that she can do with her sword attack was insanely huge. It made a lot of other AoE DPSs just seem small. Even though she was just A0 or A1, she'd be able to dish out damage like it was absolutely nothing. This character for some people was a must pull, and then for other people it was an easy skip, mainly just because if you have A6 on, in which I would say, knowing what we know now, with an A6 on, there's no need to go for Rin Lion Dance unless you're duping her out. If you're not duping her out, you want to go ahead and skip this character. Though if you are duping her out, then I would highly suggest you just go ahead and go for her, of course, and be prepared for the next few banners because they're going to be really good as well. But in my opinion, this character is definitely a skip, especially if you guys are going to have an A6 on, seeing that on pretty much is available for free everywhere. So truly do keep that in mind. The next banner being at least 3.4.1, which is the Valentines rerun, and as well Howler's rerun, was pretty much just a selector for all the women characters inside of the game here. This one, if it does go by the same version update, is more of an optional one. You don't have to pull on any of these guys. So I would highly suggest you guys skip this whole update. Next update is then going to be 3.4.2, which is going to have Matoi, our next debuffer. Now, this debuffer came out on March 6, 2025, and absolutely is amazing at doing her job. At this point in time, we then started to have Howler only deal with the single target bosses, her debuffing, and then Matoi dealing with the AoE type bosses with her debuffing. Now, she wasn't really a must pull for some people unless you were high tier duping, and I would suggest you guys to go ahead and skip this character, seeing that Howler still as a standard unit does really well, or at least AoE debuffing and single target debuffing. But if you wanted two different buffers for two different things, getting Matoi really wasn't that a bad idea and could be possible. Though the next update is what made people really skip this character. So on 3.5, we ended up getting the update of Akechi here, which a lot of people were stoked for. We knew that he had animation changes, and this was on March 20th, 2025. At this point in time, of course, everyone was absolutely stoked for Akechi, but he seemed to miss the mark heavily. His dupes and everything were absolutely amazing, and that was the only way you were really going to get a lot out of his actual character. While if you just stuck with him having the 5-star and having a 0, you practically could never use his character unless you're using him guild boss. He was just horribly tied down to guild boss only, and even there was kind of lackluster unless you had dupes. In his own at least update patch, where you usually would want to use him inside of Sea of Souls, which is the ranking mode, you didn't even want to use him there. He got out DPS'd and just outshined by other sub DPSs to a point where he just wasn't necessary. I would advise you guys, if you just don't want Akechi as a character, like if you want him for a character and he's just your favorite character, go ahead and summon. Though if you don't really care about that, I would highly suggest you guys to go ahead and skip him. The next banner is where things started to go at least insane for standards here, and as much as I would love to go ahead and recommend you guys to summon on the standard, this is another optional one which I would suggest you guys skip, mainly because standard characters always go to the standard banner. But 3.5.1 was the release date of Turbo, in which she's an absolutely amazing unit for pin units or any type of pin buffing. She also has some extra turns that really brought back some extra turn themes, and was the start right before the anniversary. Absolutely amazing character here without a doubt. She gets the job done very, very well. So would highly suggest you guys to skip this character, mainly because she's just a standard unit. Then we had the most recent update, which was the release date of course, Ange. Ange also brought a new 4-star alongside of her, which was loose here. And I forgot to mention Vino was released a while ago as well. That was on the side of Makoto. But Ange was also released here recently. Ange is the anniversary unit, and I don't know if they're gonna have her on global right away, but if you guys follow the same banner thing that I think you're gonna follow as well, you will get this character. She is a must summon unit. You don't need to max dupe her, but you dang well do want to have at least a 0 in her 4-star weapon or a 0 in her 5-star weapon. Either one is really good, and alongside of this we do have a Anni Super Rerun, which is all the units that have came out up to, I think it was Win Vast. So if you missed any units along the side here, you very well want to go ahead and get Ange and also get units that are in the Anni Super Rerun. This is probably going to be the one update that a lot of you guys really want to go ahead and summon on before, of course, we have the next update, which is the one that we're currently in. Now 4.1.1, the one that we are currently in, brought in Makoto Yuki, as well as the Anni Super Rerun that's currently still out. And if you really want to go ahead and summon on this one, I would advise so, seeing that he is our first single target DPS when it does come down to the fire side of things. This character without a doubt broke a huge margin for damage as well for single target DPSs, and makes it known with him just being at A0 without having to have the absolute monstrous buffs that he definitely does need. Without a doubt, if you just have a lot of pen on your characters and have some crit damage, he's going to perform a massive amount. So I would suggest you guys to go ahead and summon for him. And of course, he's Persona 3, so I mean, like, who doesn't love the main antagonist from there? Or, sorry, not antagonist, God, the main protagonist from there as well. Wish we had the antagonist, I ain't gonna lie to you. But with that in mind, that catches us up all the way here with 4.1.2, 4.1.3 being Yukari and of course Akihiko later on. This is going to be interesting because, man, 4.2 and up is going to have summer events and more, so it's going to be a huge bumpy ride for a lot of you guys. But if they do follow the exact same what's called banners that happen from 1.0 up, this will be your at least way of doing things. And if they don't, I'll go ahead and make another video pretty much just elaborating once global does drop officially to really showcase what you guys should be summoning for and what you shouldn't. But till then, you guys, hopefully y'all find this video interesting and actually helpful. Until next time, peace out.